Welcome to a football show here on 440 Sports. We are live day 3 at the Senior Bowl here outside Hancock Whitney Stadium in Mobile, Alabama. Of course, a football show is brought to you by the Kingston Group and the Pharmacy, with travel accommodations provided by Lions Ford for this week. Zach, you want to tell us about our wonderful sponsors before we dig into the meat of today's show?
I would love to, because here's why. This show right now is being powered by a Ford Edge that you can get at Lions Ford down in Lewisburg, lionsford.net. Head on down there, get all of the discounts, get all the value for your trade that you deserve. All the discounts that you qualify for can be found at lionsford.net or Lions Ford in Lewisburg. Go see them. Tell them I sent you. And you know what? On your way down, you know what you should do?
I don't know. What should I do?
You should stop at the Pharmacy Burger Parlor and Beer Garden all the way into Nashville. There's 3 locations. If you're coming from the north, you can hit up the one in the airport, maybe. I don't know if you have to buy a ticket, but that's on you to figure that out, not on me.
There's the internet.
Then you got one downtown, and you have one over in East Nashville, of course, the original one. The Burger Parlor is amazing over at the Pharmacy because you get so much food, and it's delicious. It's greasy. They got the best horseradish mustard in the city, tater tots galore, got everything you can want at the Pharmacy, and of course some really great beer. The beer selection in Mobile, a little iffy. The beer selection in Nashville at the Beer Garden, out of this world.
Yeah, I'm with you. And the move, Stroganoff burger for lunch, get you a currywurst to go. That's dinner later. 2 quality meals from the Pharmacy in one day.
Add a slice of country ham to that burger. Never forget that, in the beer gravy to also dip your burger in. Make sure to clog as many arteries as you can in one meal at the Pharmacy. Then, of course, there's also Kingston Group, buildkg.com. If you're remodeling a home, if you're remodeling just a room, if you need something like a what do they call those, all-in-one built-in wall units? That's the word I'm looking for. Okay. Built-in wall units. You need one of those, they could probably do it for you. They use the best contractors. They use the best material. You'll never have to worry about anything as I talk with my hands and try to murder Stoney. That is buildkg.com, the Kingston Group. What a day. Go to the Sobros Network. My friend Stoney, it's right here on his shirt. Go there. Get it all. It's on his hat, too. Get a subscription over there. Go to their Patreon. Then, of course, stackingtheinbox.substack.com. Go subscribe there. I got exclusive video clips that you'll find nowhere else other than stackingtheinbox.substack.com. Stoney.
Let's hear it.
It's the Senior Bowl. It's been great.
The Senior Bowl.
We've had a great time. Day 3. We still got a lot of energy. We haven't killed each other. We may be getting a little loopy. We're laughing a lot.
It's a grind. I don't think people that haven't experienced this week know. By the time you get to the weekend, or even right now, we're midway through day 3. We still have the American practice to watch. You start losing your mind a little bit. It's information overload on top of just relentless producing. We've been writing nonstop. This is the 3rd show that we've done since we've been down here.
We got one more to do, the Unofficial Titans podcast.
Tomorrow, we got something pretty fun planned for that, too. So people don't realize what a grind it is. I don't see how these scouts and coaches do this, for a living,
Yeah, I mean, you got to think they also have, are driving around in rental cars that are probably the size of a Spark.
Yeah,
or something like that. Yeah. A Ford Focus driving around.
We got the Ford Edge from Lions
Ford. Ford Edge. We have plenty of room. We came down in some luxury. I don't think scouts get that luxury to ride in luxury.
I don't think so either, Zach.
Okay, so this is an event, right? I mean, you're talking about, there's a lot of elbow rubbing. There's a lot of events on display. There's a lot of people that you meet and talk to. So let's talk about some of the stuff that probably surprises us the most about the event. Give you some insider stuff here. So let's start with, I feel like people come in with a preconceived notion of a player, whether that is a player of a team that they cover locally or a player that they have fallen in love with in the pre-draft process, and that player can do no wrong when he gets here.
Yes, I would agree with that. Absolutely. And people come from the schools, from teams that they fixate on people, and that's all. And maybe, local interest story or something like that they're working on. You want to tell the kid's hometown how he's doing here, but I get where you're going with this. I don't feel like enough people are open to just going in and saying, I'm just going to watch what happens, see who stands out.
Yeah, that was our process. We did. Tajay Spears was on our radar, but we did not let that affect our ability to see that. Hey,
Yes.
he wasn't that great in pass blocking yesterday, day 2, but he did learn in rebound. You can read about it, all about his journey in pass blocking over at stackingtheinbox.substack.com. But like a guy that I hear a lot of people say has had good days, and I just don't see it, and he will be someone we talk to more in depth later, is Luke Musgrave.
Yeah, absolutely.
Because he's dropped so many balls and easy passes, but everybody's like, oh, he's a winner. He's a winner. It's like maybe they're only seeing the one pass that he catches a day.
Yeah.
And maybe that's enough for them. But I believe because he had so much hype coming into this that they just can't see the forest because of the trees.
I would agree. And I've been surprised at listen, I don't want to put anybody on blast here, but I've been surprised at the amount of media folks that are down here sitting in the bleachers, just not really paying attention to what's going on the field. Like, I'm furiously jotting down notes every play just about.
And I'm trying to also talk to him and cut jokes. And he's just ignoring me. I mean, he's a worker. See, I use pictures, videos, I use my memory, but it's probably not the most professional thing. But you have you walk away with like 30 pages of notes.
You're bouncing back and forth from each side of the field, getting videos, getting photos, all that stuff. Like, I feel like we come here and we grind. Like, that's what we're doing. We even made a comment this morning. It's a little overcast, it's cold, but no real excuse to miss out on the practice. We get here and like the media stands are empty for the first half of practice.
Yeah.
So that surprised me.
I mean, I had to go put on another coat.
Yeah. But I mean, well, listen, not everybody is built different like we are. I've survived my sunburn. It still hurts, but I'm still out here scouting.
Yeah.
We're doing good. Stoney, Keeley, Nashville, Tennessee.
And we talk about these player narratives for favorite players. And I think one of the things that really drives that home is how many people focus solely and only promote the 1-versus-1s. And here's the real reason why, peek behind the curtain, is that a lot of these accounts that are out here that are on Twitter and social and all this stuff.
Okay.
It's all about the clout, baby.
We're going there.
They're
going there.
They are addicted to clout. They're snorting it like it's cocaine. That's all they care about, and that's why you only see the 1v1s. You don't see, maybe some of the team drills, some of the 7-on-7s as much, where their little coddled little player isn't doing so hot.
And I'll tell you, you learn so much about who is receptive of coaching, who is being coached up by watching the individual position drills, where it's just like, I mean, hyper broken down, hyper divided, where it's literally just the guards, where the tackles are somewhere else on the field. But you have to pay attention to like who's running the reps correctly, who's being coached up afterwards, who's being told good job, pat on the back, that sort of thing. Because you and I talked about it. Part of the guesswork here at the Senior Bowl is just trying to figure out what the hell these drills are trying to measure and trying to capture. But in those situations, you see it directly on the field when a coach is working more heavily with somebody. I think of Cody Mauk, who is transitioning to left guard after playing tackle his career, seeing the coaches work actively with him, seeing him respond to it and implement the things that they are telling him to do in practice setting. That is something, a little tidbit, a little nugget that's going to improve stock on Cody Mauk.
But nobody will talk about that because it's not the
I
same.
talked about it.
You do.
I talk about it.
Nobody else is like us. Listen, it's not about the sex stuff for us.
I mean, a little bit,
but not the sexy stuff. But like, we're substance over style, I guess. And it's Nathaniel Dell's a perfect example of that. Tank Dell,
for sure, another great example.
He had a really great camp yesterday, but on day one, everybody's like, "Oh, look at these one-on-ones and look at these separations." He disappeared in the team drills, and nobody's talking about it. Another one is Young from UT,
Byron Young.
People are putting up clips saying that, oh, he won this rep or he looked good on this rep, and he's getting like fucking stonewalled.
Man, Tyler Steen put a rep on Byron Young day one that just blew my mind. The way it was one of those situations where Byron Young puts everything he has into this spin move, and Tyler Steen just like sidesteps him, and he's right there to block it. So it's like he give it all, and you can't break through. So I don't know where the Young love is coming from either.
It's from it's just got to paint everything a little certain shade of orange. I guess
that's true. That is true.
So we want to go into and talk about the hidden gems that, and listen, I see that we're getting comments and stuff. Unfortunately, we do not have good eyesight, nor do we have the arms of DeJuan Jones to be able to
This is
reach
true. Yeah.
to reach the computer. So I apologize that we're not going to be able to get to any of your questions, but I may jot down a few and try to answer them on Twitter later.
That's a good idea.
Yeah, I'm here for the people. I'm here for the people. So load it up with questions, and we'll just do maybe a little AMA question answer section when we're
I
at
love that. Yeah.
Winsel's Oyster House later.
I love that.
All right. Hidden gems. And these are players. We're going to choose one from each team, one from the American, one from the national team that not many people were talking about, but they're going to be talking about them from here on in. So we're kind of like, we're based essentially like Aladdin. We have unleashed the hidden gem.
Yes, absolutely.
Okay, give us one guy from the national team, Stoney.
From the national team, okay, are you ready for me to say some completely unhinged shit right here?
Yes.
This group of running backs came in pretty highly touted. Cameron Peoples is the only running back in this group that I see with RB1 potential in the NFL.
This is the national. No, are you talking? Okay, so RB1. So you're even saying Tajay Spears?
No. The national team.
Okay, just make sure. Okay, just the national team.
Just on the national team, Cameron Peoples is the only one of this group of 5 or 6 running backs that has true running back 1 potential, and it's because of the improvement he has shown in pass protection this week, the improvement he has shown in catching the ball. I feel like he is silencing all of the people that have said Cameron Peoples out of App State can't catch the football. He's just a big guy. He's a thumper. We saw a little bit of that today. Very violent footwork in the running drills that they ran in the corner of the field, but then also in the 11-on-11s at the end of practice there, running through tackles. You know, they kind of discourage contact at this thing, but they were hitting a little hard today. And Cameron Peoples was a guy that they could hand the ball off to, and he was not afraid of that contact. He would drive linebackers back, taking on 3 guys at once. It didn't matter. He's got that element to his game, but to see him come out there and pass protect in the drills against the running backs, he had some reps against Dayan Henley that were really good. Dayan Henley, a really shifty, rangy linebacker, but then also catching the ball. It looked like that was a concerted effort of his this week to get out there and show people that he can catch the ball. He can catch with really nice, soft hands. He's a very natural pass catcher, running routes, getting out there on the edge. I think this guy currently looks like a 6th-round pick is what the scouts and analysts are saying. I think this guy's going to end up going a lot earlier than expected. Okay, we're about to get hit by a car out
fine.
here. We're listen.
I'll listen. I'll pull you out of the way if you pull me out of the way.
We are braving the conditions here in the Hancock Whitney Stadium parking lot to bring you a football show.
They can't drive around us. They need their license taken away. That's what I say.
I think bottom line, Cameron Peoples is a running back that has been slept on throughout the build up to this week. I think he is making the most of his opportunity this week down at the Senior Bowl. And I think he's going to end up being a steal for someone in the 6th round that's going to get a productive running back in the NFL.
And I agree with you. I think he stands out. He's just physical. He's tall. He's got soft hands.
6'1", 215.
Yeah. And I just want to give another shout out to another running back. And he's not our hidden gem or anything. And he's not Tajay Spears, who we all love.
We're talking national team,
but
right?
Yes, national team. But okay. I thought Roderick Thompson,
kid from Texas Tech, added late to the Senior Bowl.
Added yesterday to the Senior Bowl due to Roshan Johnson being injured. Has really soft hands. I mean, we just came from in there, and he looked pretty good yesterday. But today, in the 11-on-11s in the end zone, soft hands, and he was plucking balls that were low for touchdowns. I mean, he looked really good. I just want to give a shout out to him because
absolutely. And that touchdown that we saw that kind of closed the 11-on-11 period right there, Malik Cunningham. I mean, credit to Cunningham. He threw a really good ball on that, but the Texas Tech kid with the crossing route jumps up. I mean, goes up into the air to pluck it out of the sky, maintains possession of the ball throughout the act of the catch. That was a great play. He showed a lot catching the ball today too.
Yeah. So my hidden gem from this one, and he's probably not that hidden anymore, and you're going to have to remember this. So today, whenever I say from here on in Dylan Parham, I mean Payne Durham. Because I have done it so many times. It is just because I've talked about Dylan Parham so much last year that Payne Durham, Dylan Parham, they're just in my head. But Payne Durham, he's the tight end out of Purdue. I'm not saying he's George Kittle, But if I had to peg someone out of this tight end class down here that is going to shoot up draft boards and maybe go from being maybe a borderline undrafted free agent to possibly a 5th or a 4th round pick and maybe even higher depending on what he runs at the combine, it's Payne Durham. Easily the best tight end that is down here, and that includes everybody's boy, Luke Musgrave.
I'm with it, man.
Because this guy is going up in the air, catching balls, losing his helmet, and still landing in bounds for the touchdown and controlling the ball all the way down. That was an NFL, you cannot dispute it, referees kind of catch.
Man, I'll tell you what, and you talked to him a little bit on the field after practice yesterday, and he told you that he was trying to prove to people that he has some ability after the catch. But I say, forget that.
Yeah.
What about the point of the catch? This man goes up, high points the football. It doesn't matter who's on him. He caught a touchdown today that was easily the play of the day. Over 2 defenders, just goes up, snatches the ball.
Week.
Yeah, play of the week. I don't mind saying it. Goes up over 2 defenders, catches the ball, brings it down, holds on to it, completes the act of the catch, touchdown.
Yeah.
Has 2 tutties today,
he had
doesn't
2 touchdowns today. He got one from outside the end zone into the end zone. I will say this, and I also think that this goes to the point. I talked about it on, I think it was Football and Other F Words, the live show. I talked about how you want to get rid of Jeff Swaim and you want to get better. This is the guy. You pair him in the late rounds. You pair him with Chig, and you got a tight end duo that is gonna feast. And not only that, I know I brought up George Kittle earlier. Go to stackingtheinbox.substack.com. I put up his traits. I put up his stats from his senior year, compared him to George Kittle. Better stats, taller player, bigger player in every way. I don't know if he's going to be faster, but you talk about Rand Carthon. He looked at George Kittle. He was responsible for that sort of round and range of the NFL draft for the 49ers.
Yeah.
This just has like deja vu because, George Kittle was at the Senior Bowl, and that's where he got noticed, right down here at Hancock Whitney Stadium.
It's like deja vu all over again. Also, Zach, I think the car just stopped. Do you need to go step on the gas?
I will go do that real quick.
Okay, I can talk to the fine folks here watching a football show. We might also want to check the comments and make sure nobody's saying like, hey, we can't hear you guys too. So I want to talk a little bit about technique showing up big time this week. It's one of the things that Zach and I talked about on Tuesday's episode of A Football Show is like, where do players start? Where do they finish? Day 3, we are already seeing some of that show up in a guy like Jalen Duncan. Nice footwork, working on his hand usage today. He's one of the guys that I paid attention to who the coaches were talking to, where he was doing things wrong, what they were saying to him, and how he was correcting it. I thought he used technique well in a rep to fend off Keon White, who has been powerful edge rusher all week long. You saw improvement from Jalen Duncan. Nick Hampton, I wrote about his ability to sink his hips and get around players. Noticed that in the dummy drill yesterday. He brought that to practice today, getting down, sinking his hips on Blake Freeland, getting around him to rush a pass. And then you know what? I'm gonna try and butcher the kid's name now.
80 Adebawar. 80 Bawar.
80 Tamiwa Adebawore. Listen, this kid deserves all the respect in the world, and I'm just butchering his name out here. The defensive lineman from Northwestern, explosive, but seeing him get in there and really extend his arms on Jarrett Patterson, driving him back, he pissed off Jarrett Patterson big time. Jarrett Patterson was feisty after a couple of reps that he lost to this kid. He showed up big time. You're starting to see some of those things that we talked about on Tuesday, Zach, where players are being coached up and they're applying it to the field.
Yes. And one of those guys, I'm anxious to get back in here once this episode is over and finish up my day 3 evaluation on him. Is Anthony Johnson Jr., a lengthy defensive back from Virginia who has struggled on film, or maybe there's questions surround because he comes from a zone kind of heavy scheme about his ability to be in man coverage. Now, his receivers are catching balls, but he's right there stopping them in 7-on-7 and 11-on-11s. I mean, he's someone that you kind of look at, and he's got number 41, and it kind of stands out in the defensive back group. You almost think he's a safety. And I just noticed him on Monday, but he doesn't do anything flashy. It's just like he's always there. Then yesterday I started pointing him out to you again, and he's just there.
Yeah.
Wherever the ball's at, he's just there. And I go back and I think about a bend, don't break defense. And what you want is someone that doesn't break, and he is that kind of guy. And I'm anxious to see more about him today because I'm going to watch him specifically in some of these drills. And I think he needs to be on the Titans' radar because he's lengthy,
Yes.
he's physical, and he is athletic. Him and Darius Rush are both kind of like the same player out here, and one's from Virginia, one from South Carolina.
Yeah, and it's an example of one of the things that we've talked about. Because there's no real contact in these drills, it's so hard to evaluate that specific aspect of a defensive back's game because you don't know, okay, what if this were a game situation? Would he be able to close, tackle, wrap up, or, break up the pass, cause an incompletion? I got a whiff of the same thing you did. Somebody's having some fun here today.
So that was a lot of weed coming from that car that just drove by us, or coming from this guy that just opened it up.
Yeah. All right. Now we know where to go in Mobile.
Yeah, we do. Yeah. So give me another hidden gem off for the American team.
The American team, a kid that I think is going to be a mid to late round draft pick. Seeing some people even suggest undrafted free agent, Marte Mapu of Sacramento State, the linebacker. I think he's been great. He's been a downhill disruptor, getting into gaps in the run game, penetrating at times, getting into the backfield, blowing up running backs. He's a little more athletic than I think his build looks like. He looks like he's going to be a thumper, but he's got some hops, man. He jumped up in the air yesterday in practice, tipped a pass. He's been everywhere. He looks like he's got the pedigree to play in the NFL. He's a kid that's come in from a small school, and this moment has not looked too big for him at all. I think the Titans are going to need an inside linebacker, and I think they got one here at Hancock Whitney Stadium this week.
Yeah, I could see him being one of those undrafted free agents that Mike Vrabel likes to get in here, and all of a sudden you see him on game day making plays.
Yeah, and then the fan base falls in love with him, and they want to sign him to a 5-year contract.
Except for this guy may be worth it.
This guy, I would agree. Yeah, absolutely.
I would like to kind of transition into the wide receiver group and talk about its inconsistencies. Because I know that you've been looking at certain position groups and notice inconsistencies too.
I have been.
But from a day-to-day consistent basis, I have to say that I've been disappointed with the wide receiver group. Now,
yes,
I think a lot of that stems from a lot of guys showing up day one who didn't show up day two. Now, we'll say this. A receiver that showed up yesterday still was showing up today. Not as many big plays, but Michael Wilson has put together two back-to-back days. He's a wide receiver out of Stanford. He's making plays in the run game as far as blocking. He's coming across field to make blocks. He's getting open. He's very shifty. He knows how to use his leverage. He's really come on after being non-existent. I didn't even register. Both Stanford wide receivers on day one, I wrote them off. Like I was these guys, I'm not even.
They were ghosts. They were ghosts on day one.
And he's been great. He's rebounded. Cannot wait to see what he does Saturday during the game. But I talk about Dontavian Wicks and Andre Yoshevitz, two guys that showed up on day one who were the talk of the town. I mean, you couldn't even get near Andre Yoshevitz down on the field because reporters were all around him. He was the talk of the town. He was non-existent yesterday. Him and Dontavian Wicks were getting washed out constantly. It's like everybody figured them out, but also Yoshevitz just didn't seem to have his heart in it yesterday. He was avoiding contact. It was really weird.
Yeah, and to that point, I felt like he lacked a bit of a killer instinct. Like he's not a very violent route runner. There were times
and that's something that Christian Watson had.
Yeah, there were times that it seemed like he didn't really know where to go. He didn't really know what to do. Very non-committal in his route running. And when you get pressed like he was yesterday, you can't be like that. Like you got to make up your mind and go. You gotta run your route, man.
Yeah, I think that Dubose and Palmer, Trey Palmer out of Nebraska, and Grant Dubose out of Charlotte. I was gonna say, I was thinking that green spot on his helmet, almost said Tulane. But Charlotte, I found them to be very underwhelming this whole time. Trey Palmer maybe had like 2 or 3 good plays, and I don't really care about the one-on-ones that much. Now, when the one-on-ones require some man coverage and some press, and you're fighting through some stuff, then we'll talk. But if it's just people blowing by people, it's just because they're backed up a little bit. And Trey Palmer has maybe made in 7-on-7, 11-on-11s, 2 good plays out of now 3 days of watching him, and I've just been really disappointed with him. We weren't really big on him coming in anyway.
No.
Terrible at contested catches, did not prove anybody wrong on that. And Grant Dubose, I don't know if it's the quarterbacks or if it's him, but he's struggling with contact in the end zone today. Now, we'll say this. I talked to Stoney right before I was going over to watch some wide receiver drills, and I said, Grant Dubose, man, he just can't catch a break. And I immediately go down there to the other side of the stadium, and he catches a great touchdown.
Yeah.
But that was he's probably had 2 or 3 big plays. But the quarterbacks are doing nobody any favors, too, in all this.
I would say as far as Grant Dubose goes, to your point about how the wide receiver room nobody's really pulled away from it. There hasn't been anybody really consistently wowing all week long. It felt like Dubose had a chance this morning to really rise up and seize that spot. He was running some really good routes out there today, but to your point, when the contact came, didn't really hold on to the ball, didn't really finish his route. And some of these throws are just, they're not even giving a receiver a chance when you're throwing it 10 yards in front of him, and I don't mean to be so hard on this quarterback class, but it is growing more and more evident that I don't know.
There may be one guy that's getting drafted out of this class.
Maybe. Yeah.
You may get lucky to be 2. We're big on Tyson Bagent, but when we say we're big on him,
relatively speaking,
he's the best one out of this group.
Yeah.
But I don't think he's going to get drafted. I think Jake Hayner is going to be the only one that gets drafted because he can make some throws, and maybe just this isn't
Jake
maybe
Hayner,
he's just taking a standardized test out there. He's just under the pressure. Can't do it.
Jake Hayner is another guy that people have been high on this week, like Todd McShay. I told you this morning, McShay had him in his big winner of the week, and I don't know what he's watching because Jake Hayner has been wildly inconsistent at best.
Yeah, and I'll say this about I got 2 other wide receivers I want to talk about. Dell, I think that yesterday he had a good day in 11 on 11, 7 on 7s for the first time. I'm anxious to see him in this next practice. But I tell you the guy, and I have to disagree with you a little bit because you said that there hasn't been a guy that has really risen up above everybody. Jonathan Mingo has. He's the only wide receiver in this.
Steady.
Yeah, he's steady. Maybe he's not putting up all splashy plays, but he's the only receiver to have back-to-back good days of practice, and I am going to be like zoned in on a hawk, like just looking at him like he's like some salmon I'm going to swoop down and get.
Does Jonathan Mingo have 5,921 yards like Grant Dubose does?
Yeah, these yards traveled in here is just like Grant Dubose getting a lot. He's getting a lot of aerobics in, a lot of work in. What about some inconsistencies that you've seen from some position groups?
From some position groups, the offensive line, man, they're working guys around different positions. I think there are some guys that are doing well for themselves, but you're not really seeing anybody out there dominating, and maybe that's part of it is the talent level at the Senior Bowl overall. Maybe not as good as it was last year. I think you got a bunch of guys I think you have a few guys that are going to be 2nd and 3rd round picks, and they're going to get a chance in the NFL. And then I think you got a bunch of guys that are just going to come in and compete and add depth and value to your team. So there's been a little inconsistency as they're trying guys out in different positions. It's hard to get a read on, okay, well, this guy's at left tackle, the next rep he's left guard. Now they're playing him at right tackle today, moving guys along. It just kind of makes me think that there's still plenty to sort out among this offensive line group.
Yeah, it's interesting today that I think we started getting the glimpses of who the starting offensive line was going to be.
That was a great point. Great catch by you.
And Blake Freeland, right tackle
today, exclusively right tackle today.
Jalen Duncan was exclusively the first team left tackle.
Yeah.
And then you had a guy that Olusegun Oluwatimi,
center.
Look at that. I nailed it.
You're a professional.
Oluwatimi, who is now the center and the starting center, and he looked really good today. Dude, we'll get to him in a minute. But,
okay, my bad.
But no. We go ahead and start now. Risers and fallers.
I also want to say they moved Jarrett Patterson to right guard.
Yeah. Risers and fallers. Olusegun Oluwatimi was great out there, I thought. I mean, we were kind of like just sitting there. We're just kind of watching Jalen Duncan. We're watching Blake Freeland. We're watching Cody Mock. And we're watching Jarrett Patterson, the usual names. And then we just kept watching them. and go and go and go. And then you saw the guy from Troy, Andrews,
Jake Andrews.
Jake
yes.
Andrews. He had a little bit of a rough go of it.
He
But
did.
I don't know when they started trying Oluwatimi out at center. You may, I think it may have started yesterday, but
no, he had reps there from day one.
Okay.
Yeah, but they were switching him in and out from center to guard.
Yeah.
Okay, we're good.
But he was great. And he's one of my risers, because if you rise to the top and you are the starting center, I think, and when you're talking about that you're going to have to go up against some stiff competition in the American team defensive line, I think that's a good sign of progress, and that could be a steal for someone in the draft.
When we were having breakfast this morning, I was scrolling Twitter to see who everybody was talking about. I haven't really noticed much about the Wisconsin defensive tackle that's here. What I saw on Twitter today, having great reps. I mean, good interior pressure kind of guy. And he goes up against Michigan center and God just wrestles him down. Yeah. I mean, it was really impressive that here's this defensive tackle that's got a bit of a head of steam going in the Senior Bowl practices this week. And you want to say his name for me again?
Olusegun Oluwatimi.
He just wrestles him down. There was one play that he even literally throws him down on the ground. The crowd, that kind of thing, really showing up. That's a great answer for this question.
Okay, so who do you have as the riser?
Staying with Michigan offensive lineman, I'm looking at Ryan Hayes, man. Day one, watched him out there kind of struggle against power. He does look, I mean, he's a big, tall guy, but he's got a bit of a slender frame for an offensive lineman. But his footwork, his technique, his hand usage, so good. He's really popped today and looked like a long ways from where he was just 2 days ago. I think this guy has a chance to play tackle and push someone for a starting job.
Another Faller.
We're going with Faller.
Yeah, Faller.
Stock down.
Stock down is. I'm still going to go. I'm going to throw two in here at the same time, since we've already talked about him a little bit. I'm going to throw you off here. I'm going to go with Luke Musgrave and Trey Palmer. I think they both have. I think if you ask NFL teams, now listen, they can still bounce back at the combine. But I think if you ask NFL teams who had high hopes for, and if you watched them, do you really feel that they are as high on your big board now as they were? Or if you still feel the same way, I think Luke Musgrave and Trey Palmer fall into that. I don't, Trey Palmer was talking about borderline first round. I think you're talking about borderline second round. And I feel the same with Luke Musgrave. A lot of people are talking about that he could have been the second tight end off the board. I think that it's still clearly Michael Mayer and Darnell Washington. And I think if you're talking about comparing him to the rest of the tight ends in this group, I think he's number two.
Well, I mean,
distant number two.
Throwing out the evaluations, where guys are projected to go, what they've done before this, I mean, just based on this week alone, putting Mobile, Alabama in a bubble, who's been the best tight end down here this week?
My boy, Dylan Parr and Payne Durham.
That's right, yeah. All right, am I up for a faller?
Yeah.
I'm sticking with the offensive line. I think that's what I've watched the most. I'm kind of out on Blake Freeland at this point. They've moved him around between left tackle and right tackle. Yes, he's an aggressive guy that showed a propensity for making guys pay if they try to go high on him, even against the powerful edge rushers like Keon White. I think he can handle business that way, but all it takes is for somebody like Nick Hampton. Lonnie Phelps did it too. Sink their hips, go low, get around him. That's all it takes. And he's losing a rep. And I think going into this week, that was my main criticism of his game, and I wanted to see him improve upon it. So far, he hasn't. So I think, obviously, there's still a ways to go before the NFL draft. He can still iron some of this stuff out. But as far as this week, stock down on Blake Freeland.
Yeah, and I agree with you, because they obviously, he's much bigger and much more physical than Jalen Duncan, right?
Yes.
And who won the left tackle job?
Jalen Duncan.
Because you know what he did? He worked on his functional strength. He worked on his technique. He got coached up throughout the week, and he earned his spot, and he looked good doing it, whereas Blake Freeland is just, you're right. It's pretty much like if you're playing like Super Punch-Out and you figure out the combo, you can win. You figure out the pattern. That is what Blake Freeland is. You basically, if you go low on him, you got him.
Yeah, that was my boy Nick Hampton, had a great rep on him.
I think a riser for me, and I'm going to go with Cam Jones, inside linebacker from Indiana.
It's a good one.
He got put on our radar yesterday. We were watching, and because I was watching, they were doing linebackers versus running backs and tight ends, and my boy, I was really looking at Dayon Henley.
Yeah, same here.
And Henley, basically messed up on the coverage, and here comes Cam Jones. I mean, just out of nowhere, and he was like that all day. He's vocal. He in drills today, he was directing traffic, and then he was also, just kind of, talking some mad shit to some of these wide receivers and running backs. He's really good at blowing up the running backs that he was going up against today to get to the quarterback in some drills. He's bigger than Deion Henley, and I'm still a Henley fan, but I'm not as high on him as I was. But a guy that went from basically unnoticeable in day one, going all the way up to day three, probably being one of the better linebackers out of both teams.
Yeah.
I think Cam Jones is looking really great, and he's a riser.
And I would add, he has great closing speed, crashing on the play consistently. But to your point, it is from the neck up that I have been so impressed with Cam Jones. His play diagnosis, like you said, he's out there kind of like a field general, directing traffic a little bit. It's obvious that he knows the drills and understands it enough to communicate to the other players. But his patience, his positioning, man, he's a great all-around linebacker. He's going to be a value for somebody.
Give us a riser.
A riser, I'm sticking with the defense. I'm going to go with Lonnie Phelps, the defensive end, the edge rusher out of Kansas. It's funny because he's not really built like what you would think the prototypical NFL edge rusher is. He's a very stout,
he looks so weird,
compact guy. He's got some big old thick thighs, which, he can generate some drive with, but he's been really effective getting around tackles, which to me, like you think of like the lengthy, explosive, twitchy defensive ends with that skill set, but he's just a guy that can sink those hips and get around guys, and he was disruptive in pursuit on a couple of plays, getting into the backfield. I think he's another guy that's probably going to end up being a late round draft pick that is going to come in and compete right away.
And I think he could rise up the boards. I think he was right around, 6th or 7th round. I think he could rise up because again, long road to the draft. It's got to show on tape, and he had, I believe, 7.5 sacks in his senior year.
Yes.
So it's got to show up on tape. It's got to show up here. It's got to show up at the combine. So we got to see what the combine does for some of these guys. A faller for me, and man, the Boise State fans aren't going to like me.
They're going to come after you. They're going to be in your mentions.
They're already in my mentions. J.L. Skinner. And I have to say that he caught my eye. I was so excited to watch him yesterday. He's one of the first players that I was able to watch and everything. And if you go to stacking this inbox.substack.com,
that's it.
You can find out more about J.L. Skinner's day yesterday, which was a real downer of a day. It started off great, then we just kept going downhill. And there's personality issues, confidence issues, leadership issues that show up. In fact, today he had in 11-on-11s, I don't know if you caught this, but I was paying attention. The coach, the defensive coordinator out here, is yelling at JL, talk to them. And then you can hear a faint voice, he's so quiet, and he's like one of the quietest voices.
Yeah.
And then he goes, "All right, I guess that's good, JL. I guess that's good." The defensive coordinator is not walking away impressed with his communication skills out in the field. And this is a guy that a lot of mock drafts, surprisingly enough, when I went and searched it after yesterday, had him in the fringe first rounder, high second rounder kind of guy. And to be honest with you, I'm not feeling it. I think that the people who have graded him that I've read, who have graded him as a 3rd to 4th round prospect and have that grade on him, I think that's where he lands, especially if he continues to do this, because he's 6'4", he's massive. He's not very fluid, but if you can continue to have these issues crop up right now, especially at the Senior Bowl when it should be a little bit fun, everybody else is having fun, everybody else is talking. I don't know if it's just not for him or if his heart's not here in it, or maybe he just doesn't love football. But this is a guy that will not be a Tennessee Titan. I can guarantee you that.
I would guess so. Yeah, you're right. Faller for me, I'm sticking with the defense and another fringe first-round guy. I have to say I've been a little underwhelmed by Andre Carter II. I mean, this is a big
You're
boy.
Real hype on him. So when you're hype on someone, then you can objectively say he's not been as good as I thought he would be.
Yeah.
That's called Big J journalism, big A analysis.
That's what I try. That's what I strive for here. So I think somebody is still going to take a flyer on him as a project edge rusher. He does possess some explosive straight line power, but to be as wiry. I don't know if wiry is the right word for it. He's
I
long.
would say
he's
long and skinny.
Yeah, he's long and skinny. He doesn't possess the explosive twitch that I thought he would. And he's been losing out on some drills here. Like I said, I think the potential is still there. I think somebody's going to take a flyer on him. I don't see him as a solid lock for a first rounder. He's a bit of an awkward mover. He fell down a couple of times in drills that he was running against air. And it just kind of made me wonder, like, I don't know if this guy's the fluid athlete that everybody makes him out to be. So seems to me more like a very specialized role player in the NFL. And I just don't see that first round floor with him any longer.
Yeah, I think when you really get down and talk about it, I think that on his particular team, the national team, you have Jared Foskey, you have Lonnie Phelps, and you have Keon White. All three outshone Andre Carter
and
or
Nick
Andre Clarity if you're Coach Matt.
Nick Hampton, too. Don't short my App State boy.
Oh, yeah,
too.
Nick Hampton.
Yeah.
That's going to do it for us. We've had a great week. Listen, there's a great article on Tyler Steen at Sobros Network. Go to @StoneyKeeley.
He was another one of my risers.
He was one of your risers. I know we didn't get to him, but and I wrote about Chase Brown, who was one of your followers.
Big time follower this week.
We want to get back in here to practice for the American team. We got some people we want to go see.
It's about that time.
Yeah, I wanted to let you guys know. You go to Sobros Network. Tyler Steen article. There's also a thread. So first off, go to Stoney Keeley and follow Stoney Keeley if you haven't done it on Twitter. Go to a thread that he did, and he gave you 3 clips that I filmed.
Great videography skills.
They're on Tyler Steen, and then go read the article because Tyler Steen needs to be on your radar if you're a Tennessee Titan. Needs to be on your radar if you're watching the game. Number 54 for the American team. And if you want to hear about how down we are and disappointed we are about Cam Brown, Chase Brown. I'm so down on him, I don't even care what his first name is. Go read my first day one article. It's just more of the same every day. Just go read that at stackingtheinbox.substack.com. Don't forget, Lions Ford paid for us to be here. We have our whole setup running off a Ford Edge. It's amazing. So glad that this car is here because we can go and walk into the American team right after this. Lions Ford, Lewisburg, Tennessee. They're going to give you every rebate that you qualify for. They're going to search the whole Ford database to make sure that you get every rebate. They also are going to give you the most for your trade-in vehicle. Lions Ford down Lewisburg, lionsford.net. Pharmacy Burger, go grab you a burger and some brats and get you some beers.
Don't grab any brats.
Don't grab any brats, but grab you some brats. Go grab you some beers. Take the kids. Get you some soda at the soda rail. It's a place for you to actually do something that we as a society don't do anymore. Put the phones away and actually talk to each other. It's a great place to discuss, great place to talk to people, your family. Even if you hate them, it's time for you to love your family again and love them by taking them to the pharmacy.
You know what? I've been writing some poetry lately.
Okay.
If you follow the Sobros Network on Patreon, I've gotten into poetry. I've been looking for somewhere that I could go and write and feel inspired by my surroundings without the nuisance, the intrusion of technology. Would you recommend the pharmacy?
I would. It's got a
place
great
I can go
vibes.
with my notepad,
yes,
and just write some poems.
Great vibes. I would actually recommend that you sit at the concrete bar. It feels like concrete. I don't know if it's actually concrete, but it's right outside, or it's inside, but out in their glassed-in patio area. I think that's a great place for you to go and get you a little it's a little nook, right there.
Oh,
so
I love that.
I love that. Some little privacy, some coziness. Grab you a beer, grab you a brat, grab you a burger, and write some damn poetry. Get that haiku flowing.
There you go.
And then go to Kingston Group, buildkg.com for any home remodeling needs that you need. They are amazing. They have high quality, high standards, and that's what you need when you're making renovations or building a home. That's what you need. Buildkg.com. For Stoney Keeley, at Stoney Keeley on Twitter, at Sobros Network on Twitter, SobrosNetwork.com. My name is Zach Lyons. Follow me on Twitter at EffortsPod, Football and Other Efforts, 440 Sports, all on Twitter. StackingTheInbox.substack.com. We're going to have some great content still for you to come. The Unofficial Titans podcast tomorrow. Articles, videos, deep dives, they're all coming in. But you know what? You got to follow SobrosNetwork.com. You got to follow StackingTheInbox.substack.com to get all of that. We're going in here to see the American team. This has been the final day of practice. You'll see us again for the game on Saturday. This has been a football show.